All right. Hello, guys. Welcome in to Throwback Cinema. I did realize that there was actually a typo in today's stream. I am learning a brand new stream today. Wow. I also kind of picked a terrible day to wear black. There we go. There we go. That works a little bit. Welcome in, folks. Welcome in to Throwback Cinema. What is Throwback Cinema? Uh, it is a show that I've started. Wow, like I'm really kind of starting off very golden here. It is a show where we discuss movies and TV shows, both from the classics and timeless classics to modern day TV and television of the sort. We have quite a bit to cover today. I don't even know if I'm really going to go the full hour. Probably actually really not, because I don't want to sit there and feel like I'm rushing, but at the same time, I don't really want to like stretch it out and everything. I know, like, when to take it home. But I am the Gothic Storyteller. A little bit more about me, since I am kind of technically new to YouTube in a sort of sense. I've been posting since June again of this year of content outside of podcasting, but this used to predominantly be a podcasting channel with community curations. There is like a sister channel too called Cinema Alley that I did years prior to that. But one thing that I really do want to sit there and talk about today is the community curation podcast episode. The penultimate episode dropped today, this morning at 7. And it was the last Twitch interview, the last Twitch streamer interview that I did. Liz Adelph, we talked about three of her favorite film slash TV show choices, which were really interesting. One of them, you guys can actually go back to the video because I was commenting on my buddy Stephen Way, which you guys are probably going to see him pop up quite a bit, either in chat, or he'll probably be up here live maybe one day. We'll probably still try to do the Oscar nights. But yeah, interviewed Liz Adele. It was a wonderful, wonderful conversation. We talked about Twitch. We talked about her journey there, what it is to kind of become a content creator. And then we jumped into her fantasy themed choices. And one of them, which was not a movie, and I was open for it because towards the end of the season, I was really trying to branch out and sit there and see what we could do if we had our guests covering franchises or whatever. Well, in between what were her three film picks, she ended up picking actually a TV show, or really like a limited run miniseries. I do believe, I think it ran for like 4 episodes, but they were like each like an hour and a half and everything. But it was called The 10th Kingdom. And I watched it. I enjoyed it, but then I realized when I did research, I was like, she made me watch a Hallmark movie production. Now, like, the kind of like put the pump brakes there. It's not a full Hallmark. I don't believe it actually went on their channel, but it was kind of co-produced. It was one of those productions where it was half of it was the United States through Hallmark Productions, and I forgot what the other one was, but it was off over in the UK. So you had a real good mixture of both American and I think British actors. Wonderful, wonderful cast. One of the big ones that come to my mind is the guy who plays Al Bundy from Married with Children and the main patriarch in Modern Family. He plays like the Troll King, and I live for his character. He plays the character very, very straight, but the trolls are more or less shown as comedic, like they are the comedy. Even though there's like some of the other writing, I'm all like, oh, this is very, very comedic. um I kind of absolutely adore. I adore the comedy that was used for. It was something definitely out of my it was definitely out of my my field of watching. Though I love my fantasy, but more of my fantasy tends to either be Witcher, which I really only enjoyed the first season of that Netflix show, and I enjoyed the first book, kind of quote unquote, like the actual first published, I think, book. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the Lord of the Rings. I enjoyed the Witcher 3 video game. I still need to play the other ones to see if I actually enjoy those. But like that's more my fantasy stuff. I like a little bit of that fantasy, whereas this one was more whimsical. with an adventure to it, and there was love to it, and you know, I appreciate what that was, and I really do appreciate Liz sharing to me that TV show. I ended up finishing it. I really do enjoy it. I like shows that are kind of done in a BBC kind of style where it's all like, oh, here's season one, but it's only 4 episodes, and you're like, what? And it's like the episodes are an hour and a half to almost 2 hours. Oh, okay. It's like that's almost kind of now become like a bit of a Netflix formula, and we'll get to that actually later today too. But a little bit more about me. I'm a filmmaker. I went to the Art Institute of Houston. Uh, I graduated, but I sadly do not have the paper because I owed school money, and then the school went under. So I graduated. I just don't have my papers to show, you know, hey, yeah, he's a graduate. I love all types of cinema, but if you ask anyone, Gothic cinema is more of my niche. I love that in the subgenres of where all that goes. I guess even in literature, it can go into dark romance. I don't have a favorite dark romance book outside of the one I helped edit, but I feel like that's playing a little bit favoritism. But Emily Hardland, look her up. She's an excellent writer. She's currently working on getting her dark romance out there and everything. It's not Gothic by any part. It's more modern day, but you know, dark romance, it kind of falls into the Gothic romance, the Gothic dramas. I love those. I love Gothic horror. I kind of at one point got into like a bit of a struggle internally when it came to defining what Gothic horror is, because a lot of the Gothic horror that I enjoy are the Roger Corman, Edgar Allan Poe films. But reading Vincent Price's biography, he viewed those as horror fantasy, and it's all like, well, I already really love fantasy. It's like, so have I just been thinking that Gothic horror is just Gothic fantasy, you know, in films like that? So I guess you could say I'm a fan of horror fantasy as well. To Vincent Price's eye and everything. What's up, man? Stranger Things 5 was a masterpiece, and I dropped the sub. Hope it helps. Thank you so much, Oliver, for that. I really do appreciate that. We will be jumping into the Stranger Things here in a bit. Thank you, sis. But yeah, I love Gothic horror and everything. So there are going to be moments on here that we'll probably cover specific subgenres of the Gothic genre in cinema and television. That we'll be probably discussing way later down the road. I kind of already have a little bit of my ideas of what I'm doing for week 2. Yeah, I'm also a writer. I've been trying to sit there and get into short story writing. But I've also, oh my God, I was even telling a friend this morning, I got bit by the writing bug so fucking hard, and I've been prepping for this for the entire weekend. I've actually been prepping for this show and moving over here to YouTube for almost an entire week, as well as content creating. You guys are actually getting a new video out next Monday for that, a whole brand new Gothic series that if you're a fan of Hammer horror, we got that going. I'll probably talk a little bit more on that on Thursday before we jump into Thursday's schedule. But oh my God, I just lost what the hell I was saying. My bad. If you're new here, I tend to suffer from that. I tend to suffer from brain fog, so it happens quite a bit. But yeah, like we'll cover like all things like, you know, Gothic horror. We'll also probably be covering other aspects of cinema as well, because as much as I love the Gothic horrors that technically really you could sit there and say that presided throughout the early years of cinema and the early years of filmmaking and everything, it kind of really hit its stride like in the 30s. And then there was a whole revival in the 60s. And I guess you could kind of say we're almost, I don't want to outright say that we were in a Gothic Renaissance, because really what it was is last Christmas we had Nosferatu, and then this past November we had Frankenstein. There wasn't really any other Gothic films that released in between those two time points. So I don't really want to jump up and say we're in another Renaissance, because there's a huge difference when you kind of look at what the 60s brought on through not just America and AIP and Roger Corman and Vincent Price, but you have to look over at Italy and look over at Britain. You know, all that movement was going on. I don't think we're going to have another Gothic movement for quite a while. I think the big movement currently is the indie filmmaking movement. And I really do hope that, you know, good things happen to that. But subscribe if you actually haven't. It really does sit there and help us grow and everything. We're definitely on our path to partner. We're working our way up to get to 500 subscribers, I believe, and I forgot how many watch hours. I usually don't sit there and pay too much attention to that and everything, so I have no clue where I'm even at on that second half. But we are working to be partner and everything here. One of the main things you're probably going to sit there and have going on this show is brain fog. Probably the mention to Tubi. I love Tubi so much. I think Tubi is a really, really good platform that shows some modern films, but also too, like, if you really want to find some of the gems that you probably grew up on TV back when, like, people watch TV. I think that kind of cut off in the mid 2000s, maybe 2010s actually. You know, people stopped actually really paying for cable and watching all that and everything. But yeah, like I'm trying to sit there and we're gonna be talking about that whole platform and everything. I'll probably mention Plex Internet Archive, where I actually sit there and watch a lot of my classic cinema now, or like kind of, I don't want to say it's lost cinema, but it's more of the cinema the forgotten, because it's not highly commercial, it's very artsy, or it was just so much of a risk and a gamble that really people remember it, but they remember it kind of sporadically, very fondly. They're like, oh, didn't it have this or didn't have that? And it's like, no, we didn't have any of that, but you're close. You are close. We are going to move on to our next topic, which Oliver had just mentioned, Stranger Things 5, Volume 1. So the day before Thanksgiving, we were dropped 4 illustrious episodes. I think they range somewhere between an actual hour to an hour and a half, maybe an hour and 45. I think Sorcerer was the longest one, if I remember correctly, which was episode 4. I actually ended up writing notes. Well, hey there. Hey, Horror. How are you doing, mate? We're actually just now about to sit there and talk about, oh, look at this transition. Oh my God, look, I actually did a lot of work here. We are talking about Stranger Things, you know. I actually really enjoyed this. It had a very, very slow start, but I really, really do appreciate what they were trying to sit there and do here. I definitely feel like within the first 4 episodes of this new season that things were starting off a lot better. It's been 4 years, I think, since we had season 4. These kids are obviously much older. They're like, these are now fucking, what are they, like? I think they're in their 20s and they're supposed to be playing 15, 16-year-olds, something along that route. It's kind of weird. Some of them can sell it, but you could definitely start seeing it in here. Probably the only ones that I could probably actually believe are maybe Lucas and Mike. Dustin's grown a lot. He's grown. He looks much taller. He doesn't look like the little shorty. But we're gonna sit there. We're gonna get into this. Episode 1, The Crawl, was directed by the Duffer Brothers, and we start with a flashback. I hate to start with something that I absolutely detest, but it wasn't until after a while that I let the scene sink in. So we are discussing spoilers. Spoilers ahead. That's down here. You know, spoilers will be discussed. But as much as I enjoyed that they went and they did a flashback to sit there and actually show the kind of connect that Vecna has been there for the entire time with the disappearance of Will, and Will is hiding in his tree fort in the Upside Down, and he's being chased by the Demogorgon. For one, I like how very resourceful young Will has actually become. I feel like this season is going to be a shining achievement, because it kind of feels like ever since the first season, which Will wasn't really even around that much, Will has been relegated to the background. He's just background art. He's looked more as like a victim of a terrible tragedy and incident, and they haven't done really anything with that character. Season 2, which is not a season a lot of people are fans with, they kind of, that's the forgetful season. That's the season where they brought in Elle's other sister, and fans just were not fucking, they were not rolling with this. They did not like this, and people had seen that for what it was. I definitely feel like it's a very odd episode in that whole season, but to be honest, when I went back to rewatch all these seasons, I always thought season 2 was them all. And then people are like, no, that's season 3. I was like, well, then what happens in season 2? And legit, no one can remember. You have to go back and rewatch it. But that is the season that we had the wonderful Sean Astin as Bob, I believe, or Bill. I think it's Bob. It's Bob or Bill. It's one of the others. Great character. He deserved freaking better. Justice for Bob or Bill, whatever Sean Astin's character was. But yeah, going back to this flashback, it's 1983, which is where everything kind of started. I do not like the CGI they did to Will. This would have came to a point where I would have just, out of a share of probably one day of actual work, I would have just sat there and just hired a younger kid that kind of looked like the actor. But no, they kept the same actor to do all this other stuff. Or maybe they just could have sat there and they just could have retold us and actually had it where like it was a nightmare where Will is reliving, his first meeting with Vecna. And maybe, I don't know. I feel like there was something way around there doing the CGI thing, giving Will like these big old eyes and everything. I know I'm kind of exaggerating a little bit, but when I kind of notice in some of the I don't want to see some of that scene. It's all one scene, but in multiple cuts. The way how it just looks on it looks weird. And I'm not a fan of, like, I guess the de-aging. It just hasn't been working. And I know really, like, you can only improve by actually doing the work. So you have to have a lot of bad de-aging in cinema. Welcome in, Magashi. Welcome in and everything. Yeah, like there's only so much that you can sit to do. It's kind of like back when they did plastic surgery. Obviously the first couple of victims looked like crap, but obviously plastic surgery got better, so I kind of look at the same thing, like, the de-aging in the CGI. They need to figure out a way how to properly do it instead of giving characters that glossy eye look. Just because he's a kid does not mean he needs to look glossy eyed. But we're gonna pinch that and we're gonna move on. We have it that the season takes place 18 months later. Hopper and Eleven are training to find and fight Vecna, because they truly do believe that Vecna is not truly defeated, even though we sat there and saw that he was burned by Nancy, Steve, Robin, and Jonathan. They were able to beat the crap out of him. That was a very satisfying beatdown, too. And then you kind of cut to Robin, Steve, Jonathan, and Nancy. They're all working at like a radio thing. Olive Hawkins is like in quarantine. So they're kind of like talking through code to kind of like get an idea of when all of these things are supposed to happen. And I enjoyed this. Like, I ended up reading a few people that were complaining online that said, wow, like the first episode of season 5 drags. It's like, it's too slow to start. I was like, well, what do you mean it's too slow to start? It's just started. It's all like, I guess that I love that they did 94.5 as the station and they talked about it on the Rod Ryan show. I fucking thought so, that I saw that too. Awesome. I feel like a little bit of Houston just got represented and everything. I'm at the really, I just need to go back and I need to rewatch this before Christmas, because now we are 24 days away, because it's actually being released on Christmas Day. We are 24 days away until the next part, the volume 2, before we get the finale, volume 2 and everything. But I love the build up. I love that there is almost like a sense of competition between Steve and Jonathan, and then just how that blooms out throughout these next 4 episodes of their constant bickering, the subject of Nancy, the whole thing of, well, Steve seems like he's getting way too close to Nancy, but at the same time, it's like, well, Jonathan, you're kind of slumping on your job here ever since you went to California. You kind of changed into a totally different fucking person. Maybe not totally, but there were aspects of his character where it kind of seems like Jonathan just kind of stopped giving a shit. And you know, I like that they're bringing that up now, because it's very glaring in season 4 that, you know, he's become like this pothead. You know, he's left his town. He's kind of this whole brand new character kind of thing. Not new, but new enough to the point that his character doesn't seem bland or anything. Kind of like what happened to Will, but obviously Will's improved this season. Will has improved. We're gonna have to probably rewatch it. Yeah, we're gonna have to rewatch this before Christmas again, because I think we binged it all like in 2 days. I hope you guys and I hear that. We binged it all like in 2 days. I binged it on the day, half of it on the day it released, and the next day, and then I think Sis had actually just watched the entire first season, I think, or the entire 5th season, like all in one day. I if I remember correctly, but yeah, no, the first episode, it's very cut and dry and everything. We get introduced to kind of like our human villain, which is Dr. K, played by the wonderful Sarah Connor, who I cannot believe that I'm blanking on her name, because she has a twin sister that is a stunt actress and everything. Linda Hamilton and everything. We get to see a few old characters. We get a couple of new ones. One of the things that really breaks my heart in this series is during, well, it's even before the crawl, because the episode's called The Crawl. That's just the missions that they that the military and all them do when they go into the Upside Down. I definitely want to know what is the military's position in all this, because it kind of makes me wonder if either they knew about this and now is their chance to weaponize the Upside Down, or if maybe Vecna is working through one of these adults, and, you know, he's going to make sure this time it's a little bit more easier, that he's not just going to come and send his Demogorgons out after the people of Hawkins, but like he's legit going to have the military here. So he's going to make sure there's no interference whatsoever. There's no rations or any of that. It's all Hawkins on its own. Yeah, we'd be here all night just sitting there and just really talking about the first episode and everything else that went through. One of the big shocks is the Wheeler family was attacked, and we were made to believe by the end of episode 1 that that Papa and Mama Wheeler are gone, and that Holly is now the new obsession. I don't know if you guys got this vibe, but Vecna's new role, obviously he runs, you know, the Upside Down and everything, but this new role now, that how he has himself appearing to children, it's very Freddy Krueger like, but there's like a lot of other 80s horror stuff. I feel like there's like also like an element of Poltergeist 2, which I don't know how many people have actually seen that one, but that has like one of the most creepiest villains ever, with the Reverend, which is like the real reason why the whole property is haunted, because he was the leader of a doomsday cult. There's like a little bit of that I get from Vecna's like eeriness, but it's mostly the Freddy Krueger vibes, where he more or less appears as like an imaginary friend to he appears as an imaginary friend. I apologize that if I'm like constantly clearing my throat, because I went out for a run out in the cold rain, and now like my body's like, oh, we didn't like that, even though you like that. We didn't like that, so I may be coughing. I may have to mute myself sometime. But yeah, no, episode 1 ends with pretty much this whole raid on the Wheelers and everything. Nancy and Mike and them are trying to hurry up back home. Where's the Lysol? I'm not contagious, I swear. But that kind of continues on in episode 2, the vanishing of Holly Wheeler. We find out that Holly's been taken, and we pretty much there has been like a real huge emphasis on Holly for this season, and I think this is gonna be a repeat of season 1 with how Will vanished. because I think it is the anniversary of Will's disappearance as well and everything. And there's a whole lot of character development that gets there. We'll be here all night just sitting there and talking about this. And this isn't even like our main topic of discussion. The Wheelers barely survive and everything. This season definitely does sit there and show that anyone is susceptible to being killed off. I like this. I know that like I do my best not to sit there and believe in the hype of a lot of like I think it was like the Duffer Brothers and a few of the people sit there said that like, oh, the kills are supposed to be a lot more gory. It's going to be a lot more violent. There is definitely going to be a lot of deaths. And I'm like, I definitely don't want to sit there and trust and believe in all that hype. But pretty much after the end of episode 1, it definitely did sit there and show that the kid bloods are off. Like, Vector's not fucking around. He is. I love the layout. Thank you so much. He is. He's here to sit there and take over the world. And it is something else and everything. He's not kidding around. And episode 3 probably has to be one of my favorite ones. And thanks to Steven, who made me pay more attention towards the directors that direct these episodes. Episode 3 was directed by Frank Darabont. Now, if you guys are not familiar with Frank Darabont, you may sit there and note some of the Stephen King properties that he has done. He's worked in horror quite a bit. I believe he also sat there and wrote the screenplay to Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, which is The Dream Warrior. But also too, he's done I believe is the Shawshank Redemption. I think he did Green Mile, if I remember correctly enough. I'm actually trying to sit there and correct myself on there. Yes, he did Shawshank Redemption. He did the Green Mile, and then he did The Mist. So he's done a trifecta. He's worked on Nightmare on Elm Street's Dream Warrior as a screenwriter. He wrote the screenplay to the 1988 Blob. And he wrote the screenplay to the sequel to the reboot of The Fly 2 in 89. But also, too, he was an executive producer, and I think he also wrote some of the episodes for the first season and then the first half of season 2 of The Walking Dead. This man is fucking steeped in horror. I love his work. He's a wonderful, wonderful filmmaker. And I love that the Duffer Brothers were able to bring Darabont back to directing and filmmaking just with this. This isn't going to be the only Darabont episode that he'll direct either and everything, because while they're all being, I think, written by, not all of them are written by the Duffer Brothers. Frank will come back in volume 2 for episode 5, chapter 5, Shock Jock. He will direct that. This is where this season there's an obviously different source of directors, because it's showing me chapter 6 is going to be directed by Sean Levy, who did Deadpool and Wolverine, if I am correct. And then this is kind of an odd one too. The Duffer Brothers and Sean Levy are directing chapter 7, The Bridge. So I don't know if this is because of so many different parts of the story that they legit had to split the production crew and everything up. And like so like you had like your first crew and your second crew. Usually your second crew is your pickup shots. And stuff like that. But yeah, he did the Adam Project, Deadpool and Wolverine, Free Guy. I think Sean is a fun director and everything. He also did Big Fat Liar, Just Married, and Cheaper by the Dozens, and Pink Panther. Oh, and he did the first 3 Night of the Museum movies. So yeah, I think I would definitely sit there and say he's a good director. Those are a lot of really good, entertaining films underneath his belt. But the Turnbow Trap, I love the kid that played it's not Tina Turnbow, but it's Derek Turnbow, played by Jake Connolly is his name. I'm trying to remember who was it that sat there and told me, but they sit there and said that apparently this kid is the live action Cartman from South Park. And I can see it. So now I definitely want South Park to do another live action episode, and I want this kid to play Cartman. I definitely want to sit there and see that. it's like a whole episode dedicated that they are trying. I told you, I said, okay, so it's sis. There you go. Welcome in, Cody. How are you doing? Thank you, sis, for reminding me that you're the one that sat there and told me that. Um, but yeah, this is his very first project as Derek Turnbow for Stranger Things, and apparently he has a short film coming out as well. Um, this kid's awesome and everything. They need to do another live action South Park episode and have this kid play Cartman. Like I would. You can't protect shit. But yeah, no, that whole episode with just everything played about, there is definitely elements of Home Alone. I love how he tapped the kid on the head to go to the bathroom. Yes. And Sorcerer, where we'll get to and everything. Sorcerer kind of has it where he is practically Jim Jonesing the kids who are picked up because apparently they are being, I think there are certain kids being specifically picked by Vecna to I guess to be his new form of humanity and everything. And that Will was kind of like the first one. This is the reason why Holly was taken. And so, yeah, no, this live action Cartman, smack, you're next. Yes. And it's great. He's just sitting here and that's like, he's praying and doing his thing. This one other woman's looking at him. He's like, oh, like, my mother taught me this medication when like she's out of Xanax or something like that. And it's freaking hilarious just how very blunt and very vulgar this kid can be. Believe it or not, I think he's probably going to be, because each season you have some other guest role or supporting actor that takes the spotlight. This kid did it. This kid's got a career in Hollywood. I guarantee you. Just keep him away from Nickelodeon. But like Chapter 4, Episode 4, Sorcerer. The one thing I can take away a lot from Sorcerer, outside of Cartman smacking kids in the head saying you're next while chanting and humming to go to the bathroom so that they can escape, is the big reveal when Vecna finally comes through. We finally see him. 11 and Hopper are having this moment, which is kind of weird after hearing about the bullying allegations. It's kind of weird, but still, Hopper is ready to sacrifice everything just to make sure she's safe because of his daughter and everything. It's a lot of teary-eyed, mushy stuff. And then bam, Vecna just comes in full freaking Darth Vader mode. Yeah, Darth Vader Rogue One style. Comes in, he's got his Demogorgons going all over the place. They're taking out the military, and you're like, wow, are we really gonna end? I think those allegations got proven false. I believe so too, because a lot of the Duffers and I think Sean Levy even like dismissed it. And so I don't know what that was, or I don't know. It's Hollywood. Even when things get dismissed, sometimes you also kind of like need to like kind of pay attention to that. But yeah, Vecna's here. He's kicking butt. He's doing his thing, and you're just all like, oh my god. And we already had a scare that Will's mother, Winona Ryder's character, almost actually died while trying to defend the kids in, I believe it was chapter 3. Yeah, it was towards the end of chapter 3. She's swinging the axe. The Demogorgon's kind of backing off. And I'm like over here. It's like, don't kill her. I absolutely love. I am trying to figure out her damn name. I probably actually should have had most of this. Joyce Byers and everything. I did not want Winona Ryder to die. I truly don't believe she's gonna be one of those characters. But I think after this season, we've all kind of cultivated that either Jonathan or Steve is gonna perish. Maybe one of the kids. I'm still thinking it's Will. Maybe Mike. But I think Will has partial control of the Demogorgon in that scene. He does, because it is kind of revealed, I think by episode 2, that Will does not believe that whatever they got out of him at the end of season 2 that he still thinks it's always been a part of him. He's always had that little sense. And then yeah, after Vecna comes in, Darth Vader's whole scene with his Demogorgons with the military, he has that scary talk about how he broke Will, and that he's taken these other weak children that he knows he can break, and that while Will was able to break free, he hopes that these won't happen because they're weak enough that he can remake them in his own image, which kind of makes me feel like we're not getting any of the other previous victims of Vecna coming back to be like a four horsemen ish. I really was hoping for that, because I'm really hoping that maybe Eddie would pop in, and there was rumors something about maybe he come back as like a vampire from the Upside Down because of his death and everything, and that Barbara from season 1, she was one of the first victims, that maybe she'll sit there and she'll come back. I was really hoping for a possible four horsemen of the apocalypse that Vecna was trying to form, but alas, it didn't happen. He's just going to use these young kids to rebuild the world in his image. And then Will goes full Jedi. Like come on, you cannot sit there and tell me the end of episode 4 of volume 1 was not heavily Star Wars related. Because even whenever it was Hopper and Elle, it feels very Star Wars related. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's actually a very good thing. I feel like that's one way of doing it outside of just, I think there's a way that you can make a homage where it doesn't feel like a deliberate ripoff and everything. And the Duffer Brothers did that. They did it. They did it spectacularly. Clap to those guys. Absolutely freaking adore that. Because Will, while all the other Demogorgons are trying to go after all of his loved ones, Robin, his mother, everyone else, Will pulls off the biggest Jedi trick and holds all of the Demogorgons. And even they know, oh my god, this is shocking. And Vecna's already fled the coop. It confirms the Vader scene in Rogue One was inspiration for Vecna's. Yeah. And Will was able to perform the same stuff that Vecna was, where he was able to have control of those bodies of those Demogorgons, and then was able to make them break their bodies like how Vecna did his victims in the last season. And like, it's one of those, like, it got to the point that even though I was watching this while playing Baldur's Gate, I was ignoring Baldur's Gate and everything. I was watching this. I had to replay that scene to make sure I saw what I saw. Did Will practically develop the Force, or quote unquote, the powers of the Upside Down? And yeah, I think it's interesting. His eyes roll, in the back of his head and everything. He was able to sit there and do that. And it's like, holy crap. I know that we missed out on a lot of, I didn't want to get deep into a lot of the episodes, because god, I feel like that would have been like an entire stream. But yeah, this was the host spoiler talk. It's wonderful. It's amazing. I can't wait for the next 3 episodes. They will drop December 25th, and then the finale will drop December 31st. And I believe it's being speculated that that's going to be a 3-hour finale. We'll see if this series lives up to it, that it deserves a 3-hour finale. I do know, I think they were supposed to, if I remember correctly, they're supposed to be doing a spinoff of this. It's supposed to be a prequel, if I remember correctly. I think it's just over 2 hours. You think so, Cody? I would not be surprised if it's over 2 hours. But 3? God, that's a bit much. But it also would make sense, too, if you're dropping a 3-hour, like it's almost watching 3 episodes of it, all wrapped up into one. It makes sense then why they broke the finale up the way they did. Otherwise, people wouldn't be opening up their Christmas presents on Christmas. They'd have to do it the night before, because everyone would be watching Stranger Things. And that's what's going to happen here at this house when we have Christmas dinner. It's like everyone's all like, pipe down, quiet, we're watching Stranger Things. I don't want to hear no screaming, no shouting, none of it. TV's on, mouths go shut. We watch Stranger Things. I saw a post showing the times in the final episode wasn't shown as 3 hours. You're gonna have to send me that one. I really need to tap in more to a lot of the like, I follow Hollywood Reporter, but they don't always report everything. So yeah, if you can sit there and you can do that, I very much appreciate that. Um, Also, too, whenever Volume 2 drops, we will be covering it on the next episode of this because what it dropped on Christmas. I am not streaming on Christmas. I'm sorry. So you guys are gonna have to wait until the 29th, which is funny enough when the last community curation podcast episode drops. It all fits in. It all fits in. Um, if you haven't checked that out, go check it out on my channel and everything. A new episode dropped. The penultimate episode, the finale drops on the 29th. And next Monday we have a new video, but I'll talk more about that one on Thursday. We're gonna switch on over to here to our next subject, which I believe I can sit there and I can chit chat with you guys a little just a little bit on here, just to kind of get just tagged you on Facebook. Thank you so much, Cody. I appreciate it. So I was kind of like wondering like what do I do for episode 1 of this film discussion, this film rants, you know, everything that I really sit there and love about cinema. You know, obviously I was going to talk about Stranger Things. You can't neglect that, but I figured, you know what, probably for the main topic, which we spent more on the subtopic more than the main, I kind of figured, you know what, I can easily sit there and talk about my 4 films on Letterboxd, which if you're not following on Letterboxd, you can find the link on that somewhere here on the YouTube. It'll take you to one of my sites and my link tree will be there. Or I think it's down below, actually, not the Letterboxd link, but the actual link tree stuff, if I remember correctly. It's down there. But oh, nothing against the actress. I'm the only one distracted by the new person playing Holly. I do know that there were some people because they had twins. They had twins play Holly in the last couple of seasons, and now you had this whole brand new one, which I was expecting. I was expecting something like that if they were gonna sit there and make another, because there was another TV show they did that where there was an actor that was like a background actor, and then when that character was supposed to come to the forefront, they recasted them, and then people were like, "What the hell?" Yeah, it's very jarring, but I don't sit there and think it's that bad of a switch. The weird thing is I could have sworn that Holly was much younger, and this Holly looks a lot older. Even though like a year and a half had passed by, there's no way in hell you just randomly hit a growth spurt that big. Because I could have sworn I thought Holly was much younger. But yeah, Letterboxd, Letterboxd and everything. We will be covering my we're going from 4 to 1, so it's a countdown. So Holly is supposed to be like 7 or 8. Is she? Oh, okay. Well, then she kind of does look like that. But yeah, the jump, the big jump from one actress to another, it's definitely different. This actress is 14. Yeah, she looks much older and everything, but I'm pretty sure they also probably did that for child acting reasons and everything. Maybe they were able to get more time with a 14-year-old than they probably could with the original actresses that are probably. She was good in Evil Dead Rise. That's the one with the 3 kids and the single mother, right? If I remember correctly. We are going to switch over. Number 4 on my okay, that's what I thought. Number 4 on my Letterboxd and everything. The top 4 films that to me are you know, or to my chest. It's kind of hard throughout over 100 years of cinema to pick just 4. She makes that spear with the doll head. Gotcha. Okay, I think I know which kid you're talking about and everything. Really creepy ass kid. It's Godzilla. It's King Kong versus Godzilla. Like, this film right here is what made me fall in love with the kaiju genre. I absolutely love it for all of its cheesiness. Oh, I kind of went a little too far. I absolutely love this. I wore out the tape. We used to have the tape, and I think last year we ended up. Yeah, I had this on VHS too. Last year at one of the cons that me and my sis went to, I actually found the exact VHS cover in the VHS tape, and God, that sent back memories. King Kong versus Godzilla is the advertising director of a pharmaceutical company, seeks to boost the ratings of their sponsored TV program by capturing the legendary monster King Kong just as Godzilla re-emerges. And I kind of really wish that some kaiju films actually did this. Again, I kind of hate that they have to make everything like the main characters or some government official or part of a secret agency. like I kind of really do miss some of the kaiju films of this. 2 years after this, we get Godzilla versus Mothra. I remember the cover using 70s King Kong and Godzilla. Yeah, it's very jarring. Um, and then when like you kind of like look at it, it's like I don't think it's the same Kong whatsoever. Um, but I appreciate this film. I appreciate it for all of its cheesiness, for just everything. This is a childhood favorite, and I think no matter what, it'll always find a list for me of like the top 10 favorite movies of all time, because this is essentially what got me into a whole other genre, made me fall in love with a franchise, or practically two other franchises, because I really do like some of the King Kong movies, but I wouldn't really say they're franchises. I do believe, I think a couple of years after this film, they did King Kong Escapes, which is where he fights the infamous Mecha Kong, um, which I actually need to see that. I have not seen that one. The fact King Kong was originally supposed to be Frankenstein. The fact King Kong was originally supposed to be Frankenstein from Frankenstein Conquers the World. Was it? Because I thought at first. So I thought the story behind this was that I thought it was Godzilla that was supposed to be Frankenstein. So it was supposed to be King Kong versus Frankenstein. I could have gotten that mixed up. But either way, Frankenstein. Why else would you know what? Then yeah, that makes sense. Then to have Godzilla go up against Frankenstein, the electricity power. I do like that the Godzilla X Kong films finally referenced that, where they gave Kong some electricity power. Just call him King Kong now. Like, God, I'm tired of just referring to him as Kong. Give him the full title. Um, but this one, I love. I love it to death and everything. Ishio Honda, who did the original Godzilla, came back to direct this. I think also too the original producer for Godzilla also came back to produce this film. If I remember correctly. I'm actually trying to find um the the crew list. I guess it's up there with the actors and everything, but is it? Oh, hold on, I found all cast and crew. Um, because the writers were Shinichi. I apologize. Sikazawa, who wrote it, but the original story by Willis H. O'Brien, which was supposed to be King Kong versus Prometheus, and then yeah, they took out. So I think it's supposed to be King Kong versus Frankenstein, and then because they bought the rights, but they didn't want to use Frankenstein, I guess, for costly. They were like, we'll just use Godzilla. So, and them using music from Creature from the Black Lagoon. Is that? I'm gonna have to go back and freaking. That I did not know. I did not know that either. Producers were Tomoyuki Tanaka. So yeah, the original producer for Gojira. Um, yeah. So this film had the original Gojira. Uh, uh, yeah. No, I Godzilla with Creature from the Black Lagoon kind of music, or did they save that for Kong? That's interesting. I did not know that. Tanaka also did Yojimbo, which is a Akira Kurosawa film, if I believe so. But yeah, no, this is a childhood classic. I absolutely freaking love and adore this film and everything that it holds. And yeah, our next one on my letterbox is The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. I think it's probably one of the most perfect westerns out there, and it's actually a very imperfect film if you really kind of, niche out. There's not really one direct story. It's more of just like it's three men hunting for gold. It's practically the classic overdone storyline of practically almost every western. If it's not some lawman forced to face the outlaws by himself, or the very racist, like, the Indians have attacked us and everything, and so we're gonna go after them and get our women back that they kidnapped. There's always those types of storylines in this. But I also kind of feel like the whole like three men chasing after riches that are supposedly buried elsewhere. It's used when they're in their final fight. Really? All right, I'm gonna have to go freaking listen to that. I'm gonna have to go. I'm gonna have to sit there and give a listen to that, and then try to figure out where in Creature from the Black Lagoon did they take that specific score from. But that's fucking hilarious to use a universal monster for two kaiju. I mean, it fits. It definitely fits, you know, for that. But Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Um, you have Angel. No, he's. I don't think he's called Angel Eyes in this one. Um, Satenza and everything. Angel Eyes was in for a few dollars more. Watching this, I picked up my westerns from my mother because she picked that up from her father too. So that's kind of like my only link to my grandpa. I don't really have a relationship with him. Um, and sadly, he passed away before I could have any relationship, like some type of grandson, grandfather relationship with my grandpa. My sister got that. She got all the grandparent stuff, and then I came in, and grandpa's like, I don't want them. But I think he was more of a John Ford kind of guy, and I kind of more or less grew up through my mom's taste in westerns, where I do love my Sergio Leone spaghetti westerns, but I also love I love my Clint Eastwood westerns. Uh, there's quite a few John Waynes that I absolutely enjoy and love. Um, this is also back at the time where they got a white man to sit there and play a Mexican, which is somehow it works even still here, even though Eli Wallach's Tuco doesn't really carry that accent. I guess you can call it the Gilman's theme because the music's whenever he would appear on screen. Really interesting. But yeah, I absolutely adore. Um, I just adore this film. I don't sit there and really think that this. Oh shit! I actually fucked up. Okay, so I know not to open that up again and everything. We're it's first stream. You know, we're being we're trying to figure out what works and what doesn't. Um, but yeah, I've always been a fan of this. I love the trilogy. I love A Fistful of Dollars. I think that's actually I would probably sit there and say it's the better one, but I kind of also like that practically in The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, practically almost every still, you can take almost any moment in this film, any still, it is a painting. It looks almost like a painting. Just the way that it's put together, it's edited, the music, sound design, everything. While I don't really enjoy the story all too much, um, it's more of the journey alongside. And the destination actually has a really, really good iconic. I know some films today don't really know how to execute a really good ending. I for sure don't, and I've actually made a short film, so I know how hard it is to actually try to get a really good ending to a film. Um, Regardless short or feature length and everything, it's hard. It's hard to wrap up a story sometimes. But yeah, like I grew up. I watched this. There would be some days where after my mom's done cleaning, uh, you know, the house and everything, we would pop on a movie. And if it was this, then we didn't watch any other movie because this movie is like over 3 hours long, I think. It's a wonderful classic. I love pretty much everyone in there. Lee Van Cleef, I would go on and continue to watch some of his stuff. I've seen a few of his solo stuff, but usually it was either for a few dollars more, Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, or it was Escape from New York. Those were the films that I saw him in the most as a child, thanks to my mom. Because my mom, pretty much my whole taste in cinema started with my mother, and then I actually got her a lot more into the independent films. Um, my next film pick, um, is The Exorcist 3. I actually prefer this over the first Exorcist film. While I love the first Exorcist and what William Peter Blatty and um oh my god, I can't believe I'm forgetting the director's name. Henry Friedkin, William Friedkin. Not Henry, William Friedkin. What they did with the first one, I like this one a little bit better. As much as a story about a man coming to terms with his faith, and having to try to save a child's life, I think I like this one a little bit more better, where instead of it being a man of the cloth, it was a man that was supposed to join the cloth. And he ended up becoming like a police officer who's now like a lieutenant. It's Kinderman from the original one picking back up. He becomes friends with Ned Flanders as Father Dyer and everything. It's a Wonderful Life. It's God, that scene still gets me all the time. It's the intercuts between Brad Dourif and Jason Miller as Patient X, aka James Venom, the Gemini killer. Um, it's just everything about this film. The way how it's shot, the sound design. Um, it is a psychological horror with supernatural elements that I truly do appreciate. And I usually know that real good psychological thrillers easily explain the supernatural in some form of a psychosis of any form. I truly believe that Blatty, when writing this and directing it, was able to like, no, it's both. Like, it is a disorder of the mind in which evil is is able to invade far more easily because you cannot protect or defend your mind quite as well as you can if you were not mentally sick. If you weren't going through Alzheimer's and whatnot. And yeah, for one, this film has like one of the best freaking jump scenes ever in cinema, with the nurse losing her head with the I posted a couple of vids with the music and when shown the times. I got you. But yeah, there is just, I love this. This is, I think I prefer the theatrical cut over the producer's cut, because I'm sorry, some of the scenes that they brought in, they didn't even bother to colorize it or fix some of the audio, so it kind of takes me a little bit out. I know some people some people think that the producer's cut is the better one, but I just don't like being jerked right out of the magic of this world because something is not color corrected and the audio was not properly cleaned up and everything. It just felt like they just threw it in there and they're like, there, that's all they deserve. And I was like, kind of really wish you guys did a little bit more. Dare I say, this is Brad Dourif's best performance over Chucky. So I actually have a few other roles for that, Cody. I have a few other roles for that. As much as I love Chucky and the Gemini Killer's roles, I love Brad Dourif. I'm going to pull up these freaking films right here. First off, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. I love his portrayal of Billy Bibbit in that fucking film. It is the heart and center. As much as Jack is the comedic element and the soul of rebellion in that film, Brad Dourif's portrayal of Billy Bibbit in that is the heart and soul of the entire group. And all the shit that he gets thrown through, he does not deserve it whatsoever. Some of it I do sit there and feel like it was just mean to him. You know, like he did not need to be treated this way. But like another half, it's like, it's just the nurse trying to sit there and establish order. And she has to be a bit cutthroat in order to sit there and do it. So there's that role that I'll put up there. Another one I'll put up there, he's hot as shit, is the role of Tommy Ludlow in Eyes of Laura Mars. I swear to God, I never sat there and thought that Brad could look so freaking hot. But you give him a beard and like the weird 80s, or no, this was late 70s, like the perm, where like I was like, that's a good looking dude. Pop a cigarette in his mouth and he's got like a leather jacket. That's a handsome man. And then there is this really, really weird role that he did. It's a lead role called in Wise Blood with John Huston, and he plays someone named Hazel Motes, who is he is a veteran that comes back, and he's pretty much dressed up as a priest and leading a church without, I think, Jesus, and the church without Christ in this small little town. And the film, it's kind of like a black comedy satire about televangelism, street priests, religion all in general, how people coming back from the war was. Brad Dourif played Wormtongue, if I remember correctly, in The Lord of the Rings. He did play that. So like, as much as like a lot of people, Chucky, or I mean, even maybe Wormtongue and Lord of the Rings, it's like seeing these earlier roles of him. And you know what? I'll throw in an even bonus one. Oh, okay. So, two ones. Alien Resurrection. He has a really, really good role in that. I don't remember the character's name in Alien Resurrection. I'm looking it up right now because it came out in 99. I forgot that he was on WCW Thunder. Wow, why am I struggling? Because Resurrection was 99, if I remember correctly, right? Yeah. It's not popping up here on maybe it was before that. Okay, 97. He played Gettyman. But there is that, and then there is the Graveyard Shift, where he played the very charismatic exterminator. And I think he had a dog. He was also a character in No Video Game Gun. He did a lot of video game stuff as well. He did Gun. He did Dishonored. He played one of the characters in Dishonored, which is a really, really fun game. God, now that makes me really want to go download Dishonored now just to play, just so I can hear Brad Dourif's role. But The Exorcist 3 has everything that you want in a psychological thriller with supernatural elements. There's great jump scares. I've actually read the screenplay that was supposed to come out. It was written after The Exorcist 2, which is just god awful. But I think Blatty was not completely 100% a-okay with how the I don't think he was a-okay with how the script was and that he needed to work on it, and so he kind of shelved it, but then went and wrote Legion, and a lot of what's in the screenplay that I read is in Legion, and just taking that and then going to and going back into a film property and everything. Even just looking at like the different characters that obviously mirrored Kinnerman, Dyer, and all of them, even the Gemini Killer. He's still the Gemini Killer and everything, but they refer to him more as James Venenum, his actual name. There's like a whole backstory that you feel sorry for the guy, because what happened to his brother. It's a wonderful screenplay. I absolutely love it. Yo, what's up, Steven? We were talking about you earlier. I hope you're doing well. But yeah, I absolutely love this film. I think it's a wonderful film. If you haven't seen it, I think it's still on Tubi. Yes, it actually is. It's on Tubi, and I'm pretty sure I think it's the producer's cut that's on Tubi. On to our final film, is The Changeling, which is funny enough. My top two films, they both star George C. Scott, and I just love George C. Scott as an actor. He could be the most quietest, intense person, and then just slam his fist down and just start bellowing, and it just commands your attention. And I think, believe it or not, people sit there and give shit about Nicolas Cage when Nicolas Cage performs. When Nicolas Cage gets all cagey in his performance, George C. Scott was doing this way before Cage. He would sit there and kind of start, oh yeah, I'm very calm, and then it's all like, that's enough, and like he would just get super angry. It is not in the files. It is not. Yes, iconic. Love that freaking line and everything. There's another line in the Exorcist 3 script that's like super fucked up. Oh my god, I'm trying to think what it was, but like I believe that whole monologue towards the end is fucking chef's kiss and everything. But the Changeling is a haunted house ghost story. After experiencing a tragic personal loss, a music professor rents a Seattle mansion with a troubled history. This is actually, quote unquote, based off of an actual haunting that happened in Colorado, but they switched it from Colorado and everything. The place used to stand, but by the time that I think they were getting ready to do the movie, the house had already been torn down in the mansion. Those are not Joanna's eggs. Oh my god. We're gonna bring in the rescuers down under too. It's like, that just goes to show you the range that George C. Scott has. But the Changeling to me, I think actually has some better jump scares than The Exorcist 3. Mostly because, and I really wish that they made more films like this. And I don't want to sit there and say it's the A24. Not gonna lie, he sounded a tad constipated during that scene. I think he sounds like that just when he got older. Because it's the same thing in the scene that you sent me for or oh no, it was Steven that sent it to me of 12 Angry Men, and it was George C. Scott's role. Played, believe it or not, by Lee Cobbs, who also played George C. Scott's role in The First Exorcist. I just realized the connection there. I just realized that. So thank you. Thank you so much for helping this worm in my brain to like connect the dots. Oh my god. We love when that happens. But yeah, The Changeling, I definitely sit there and feel like if you have not seen this film, it is the one of the best slow burn ghost stories. Not a lot happens at the beginning. It's very kind of somber. It's kind of sleepy-ish. I remember my mom used to put this on and go to bed to this while I would sit on the couch with her and watch this movie. I've seen this movie more times in my childhood than I would probably like to admit. But it's such a wonderful film. George C. Scott and his wife, Trish Van Devere, are in it. This is also the film that made us all terrified of fucking balls. Yeah, you heard that correctly. Not testes, but that whole ball scene where, you know, he's tired of hearing the ball bouncing in his house, so he takes it, throws it off a bridge, goes back home. The moment he leaves the entryway and goes right into the foyer, that ball bounces right down the steps and rolls towards him. Downright one of the most like spine chilling scenes ever. There's so much with this film when it comes to its scenes. I absolutely treasure and adore it. There's also post seance scene where George's character is listening to the tape that he recorded, and it's just this one moment intercutted with a few other scenes, like split into as he's hitting the play button, stop, rewind, play it back, and he would shorten it, and he would try to all what you hear in that scene outside of the tape recorder, you don't even hear his breath and everything. You just hear that clicking sound of the tape player, and then it would just play right back, and you just listen to that. And the closer that we got to him, the more he started discovering the voice that he didn't hear that night, the voice that's hidden. And when he finds out, you know, the name of the child's spirit, how did you die, you know, it's one of those scenes that if you are patient with this film, you are very much rewarded greatly with a lot of really good scenes of horror. I think it's actually one of the perfect ghost stories. And like, I'm throwing this up here with like Legend of Hell House, The Haunting of Hill, The Legend of Hell House, The Haunting of Hill House, and even Stephen King's Rose Red, which is really like a combination of all the great moments of ghost story films thrown into a TV miniseries. I think The Changeling is actually far better than that. It was able to sit there and tell its story very, very well. Written by Russell Hunter, which he ended up actually having. He was the writer that actually experienced the actual haunting. It wasn't anything as this egregious that what the film has and everything, but it I'm trying to sit there see if I can actually find it. But I can't sit there and seem to find. Oh, it's because you know, scroll down. You know, the movie is based on events which supposedly took place at the Henry Treat Rogers Mansion in Denver, Colorado, while writer Russell Hunter was living there during the 1960s. The Chessman Park neighborhood in the movie is a reference to the Cheeseman Park in Denver, where the original haunting actually transpired. And sadly, that mansion does not exist anymore. It's really, really sad, but because I would love to sit there and spend a night in that house and sit there and see if the spirit of a child is running around. This film was also a very interesting film too, because of the actor Melvin Douglas who is in there. He has a supporting role. I won't kind of give away why the film is called The Changeling, but if you know what a changeling is, then you'll understand it. But this is the first of two ghost story horror films that veteran actor Melvin Douglas made in a 2-year period, right at the end of his film career. The other one being Ghost Story 1981, which was his final film credit before his passing. Ghost Story by Peter Straub, to me, is also one of the best written ghost stories. I think it's actually better than The Shining. I think it's far better than that. Um, but yeah, Melvin Douglas starred in there, along with John Houseman, Fred Astaire, and Douglas Fairbanks Jr. Uh, the movie's okay. It doesn't do the book justice like most things, but yeah. Um, those are my four films. Those are my four films and everything. If you actually aren't following me on Letterboxd, I will actually drop the link right here. I've currently been going through in between, my work and everything. I've been binge watching a lot of holiday films. Um, so like I just recently watched the other day Eight Crazy Nights, which that is an underrated Adam Sandler film. The year that film came out, people were shitting on the Sandman for no good reason. Like I think the year that 2002, not 2004, 2002, yeah, you had like Mr. Deeds, but like you also had Punch Drunk Love, and you had Eight Crazy Nights. I was also watching Mickey's Christmas Carol, Ernest Saves Christmas, and the Muppets Christmas Carol. You can definitely tell I have fully shifted over into the Christmas, um the Christmas category and everything, and you can actually go on there and read some of my reviews. Some of them are good, some of them are not. um we are gonna wrap it up for today. There goes Mr. Humbug. Humbug. uh that's pretty much, I think, what I have for today. I think we actually did good. We did like a little over an hour. As I am looking at this, except I said I started stream about 70s or so minutes ago. I think I ended good. I need to also remember when I schedule streams, I really need to be on time, because I think it made me restart the entire like I actually had to start a whole brand new stream thing. But thank you guys again so much again for being here. I will see you guys Thursday night at 6 p.m. We're gonna be talking about short films. I'm gonna try to build my best case possible within the span of 48 hours. I probably actually really had maybe 72. On why I believe that maybe you guys should be watching short films. Um, oh yeah, a new Silent Night, Deadly Night remake. I did sit there and see that. I saw that. Um, I saw the teaser for it today, and I don't know how I feel about it. If you haven't seen it, you guys go sit there and see it. But like, um, while I'm not against the casting. I think they actually found a really, really good actor to play. I think it's supposed to be the role of Billy from Silent Night, Deadly Night. Um, there is something that they have added to the character. I don't know how I feel. I'll probably enjoy it a little bit better when it comes to the when like I actually see the whole freaking film. Yeah, Corey from Halloween Ends. Yeah, as much as we all crap on him for Halloween Ends, like I think this film will probably do him better than what Halloween did for him, because it kind of felt like he just got a lot of hate for that. But I kind of feel like that comes with the territory of Halloween. If it's not the movie some people think it should have been, they're gonna go hate on the actor, and that's not fair. That's not fair for them. They just go there and they do their lines, they do their script. They are not the screenwriters, they are not the producers, they are not the studio heads. I hate that character, not the actor. Yeah. Yeah, dude did a really good job. I think if they if they sat there and brought him in much sooner, I don't think it would have gotten quite as much as flack or backlash. But they did. But that's gonna be it for today and everything. Thank you guys again so much again for being here. Thank you, Sis. Thank you, Cody. Thank you, Steven. Thank you to all the new subscribers. Thank you, Knox. Thank you, Magashi, Horror Historian. First stream, I was super freaking nervous. I had no clue I'm like over here, it's all like, can I stay on topic? Can I do this? Can I do? I think I did. I think I did a decent job. I think I did good. I think I did okay. But yeah, I'll see you guys all Thursday nights. Pretty much I will be live only for December on Mondays and Thursdays, but once the new year actually does come through, I will only be going live once, and that'll be on Mondays and everything. Who knows? Maybe I'll extend it and make it a 2-hour stream. I don't know. But dude did a good job. He did. He did do a good job. I thought you meant that I did a good job, which I thought I really needed that, but now reading it, I'm now gonna hold you accountable, Cody, that you didn't also tell me I did a good job. Oh my god. I felt kind of a little bit proud. I was like, wait, no, he's talking about the guy who played Corey. Okay, well, that kind of hurt. Thank you. Thank you. You guys all, yeah, well, I joined kind of like, hey, you're fine. You're fine. Thank you guys again for being here. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, do all the things. And yeah, I'll see you guys in a few days. You guys have a wonderful night.